neighbors. Hi. It's Monday, August the 18th. We've got a few things on our agenda tomorrow. As usual in our work session, we've got a couple of non-voting presentations, but we have primarily everything is on our consent agenda, so there's only one item of new business that's separated out. We'll get to that. It is an ordinance that would put a temporary moratorium on vape-type shops. It would be a 12-month moratorium, but we'll talk about that more later. But everything else is going to be on the consent agenda, so it'll be all voted on together as long as we get through it in the work session. But before it's apropos that I'm wearing this shirt today. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant for just a minute about sharing the road. And I'm going to probably rant about this in my mayor's report tomorrow because I got really upset today when a friend of mine who has a 5-year-old, just started kindergarten, they ride their bicycles to the bus stop. And they're on a neighborhood road, and so they ride to the bus stop, and they go and pick him up from the bus stop. He's a 5-year-old, okay, so he's on the bike with them. And this morning, an elderly woman honked her horn at them repeatedly while they were on the road, riding bikes to the bus stop. And then again this afternoon, when they were almost to their house on this neighborhood road, this same woman honked her horn at them again. Absolutely, just absolutely appalling, inexcusable. We should not be treating pedestrians and cyclists who are on the road, not in a vehicle, as if they don't belong there. And I will not be mincing words tomorrow. This is not new. We hear about this and we see this all the time. That was just like kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me today, because this is a child who is, instead of, sitting in a car, which is what my child does, because we live too far away to bike, my child has to ride in a car. This child is getting to ride a bike with his family to get to the bus stop and get to have that experience on the road. He should get to do it safely in a really, protected environment and supported environment. And that goes for adults too. This is not just about children. We all should be sharing the road. I don't know if you guys know this, but roads were not initially built many decades ago for cars. They weren't built for cars, okay? So our communities, unfortunately, in America became very car-centered and car-centric, and that's how they were developed. And so we're in a really icky place where we're having to try to reverse that over time. But anybody who wants to use a bike or other kinds of wheels, or has to use other kinds of wheels to move, or chooses to walk or roll or whatever on the road, they should be safe, just as safe as you are in a vehicle. And they should be supported and protected. Vehicle drivers, you are not the only people that matter. Everybody matters, and everybody's safety matters. So if I ever see you doing that, I will definitely say something to you. So get ready for that. But it's just unacceptable in this day and age. What I find very, the most disturbing is the hypocrisy around it. We have a lot of people in this community who are have been here a long time or grew up here or whatever, and they talk about how, this isn't the Red Bank they used to know, and they wish it was, like it used to be, and, oh, I used to be able to ride my bike all over town, and I used to be able to go out in my neighborhoods and do this and that and meet up with my friends and my neighbors and this and that. And I think, well, when people try to do that today, you treat them as if they don't belong. So not okay. And we don't accept that here. So that kind of behavior is absolutely zero tolerance. I'm hoping that my friend is going to be able to get the license plate of that driver tomorrow when she is riding with her child to the bus stop, and can report that behavior, because that does not need to be happening to anyone who is moving through our city. Okay, you guys are going to hear me say that again tomorrow probably, but a little more diplomatic. But anyway, I was wearing this today and I thought, wow, okay, I got to talk about it. So the first item of business on our work session agenda, which hopefully it doesn't start thundering or lightning, I can make it through this. We'll just be getting a monthly financial update from our CFO, Miss Pickle. I don't know if I talked to you guys about this last time, but when she did give us an update for June, it did look like we had really done some excellent belt tightening, postponed some things, able to push off some projects to delay them because of the $800,000 shortfall in our tax revenues. And the last time she gave a presentation on our monthly finances, she said that we were looking to probably be about using $75,000 of fund balance, which is actually way below what we had projected to use. And that was before we knew about the snafu with the tax revenues. So I think we were projected to use like 200 and something thousand. So doing pretty good with that. So she'll talk more about that tomorrow and have more like solid numbers. We won't have final numbers until after our audit happens, which should be coming up here in the next month or so. And then they'll present on it in December. The other presentation that we have is item 2. It's our Community Development FY Fiscal Year 26 Annual Report. So Director Slay is going to be talking about all of the things that her department, where we are in each of those things. There's a lot of stuff to talk about, and there's a really great presentation that's in the work session packet if you want to just go ahead and take a glance at it, or if you're not able to attend or stream the meeting tomorrow. I think you'll find it really informative, and it will be very exciting to see where we are with some of those efforts. All right, moving on to our consent agenda items. So the first item is approve an agreement for purchase and acquisition of certain real property. This is at 3800 Dayton Boulevard. I already saw some comments on Facebook somewhere where somebody said, what are they doing, buying the church? Because that's where Red Bank United Methodist Church is. No, it's an easement. It's the front of the property where Stringer's Branch is, at the front of Red Bank United Methodist Church along Dayton Boulevard. And basically we had been talking with them for some time because we were going to do some renovations to the portion of Stringer's Branch that's in City Park that we own already, but it didn't really make, and we were going to bust up the concrete, restore it to its natural, topography, and we realized that as property began, it needed to be like a fluid project. So Director Slay has been in conversation with the church board for over a year now, had surveys done, appraisal done, and all that stuff. So we're finally at a place where we can talk about buying that piece of property from them. It was appraised at $30,000 because you can't develop on it or anything like that. It's just where Stringer's Branch is. So we would just be buying that to own that whole stretch of Stringer's Branch there so that we could do work on it in like one big project. So that's what that is. If you want to look at the appraisal, you can look at that in the work session packet. It's been uploaded. The next item on the consent agenda is closing out our TDEC ARPA grant. So we had a grant from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation that came under the American Rescue Plan Act. It was like additional funds specifically for stormwater or sewer infrastructure. So we used it to map our stormwater infrastructure system for the first time ever. So what we'll be doing is closing out that grant contract with the engineering firm that we've been working with for like forever. I mean, gosh, I don't even know. I feel like it's been like 2 or 3 years. But they developed our stormwater asset management plan, and will also be adopting that formally, which is amazing, because, like I said, we have never done that. We never mapped it. We never took an inventory of the structures, and we're going to have all that now. So it's really exciting. So we're just closing that contract out and that grant contract out. The next item on our consent agenda is approving the application for property conservation grant by the Public Works Department. That's through Public Entity Partners, which is our liability insurance company. It's for a grant of up to $2,500, which helps offset costs for surveillance and video systems that help protect your properties, so city properties. So really it will just help offset some costs that we already have budgeted if we get the grant. All right, the next item on the consent agenda, item 6, update to the omnibus fee schedule for solid waste. So we talked about this last time. We did vote on it twice. It went through. The solid waste fee is going up from $192 a year to $294.55 a year because it hadn't been updated in like 15, 16, 17 years. And we just inflated it according to what inflation had happened over the past that many years. And so we're just updating the official fee schedule where all of our fees and all those other fines, I was trying to think, penalties, all those other kinds of fees are listed. So we're just updating that since we did pass that ordinance. Item 7 is authorization to participate in the Firetruck Antitrust Litigation. Basically, there was an email that went out to certain entities, governmental entities, that purchased certain types of fire trucks in a certain period of time. And there is litigation happening saying that that company price gouged, overcharged, and so we're jumping into that. So that's what that is. Our city attorney will talk about that a little more, but we don't know what we might get out of that, but we did buy a truck from them during that time period. So it doesn't make sense not to jump into that class action suit. But yeah, we'll talk about that more tomorrow. Item 8 is approving a memorandum of understanding with Team Rubicon for Godsey Ridge. So this is an organization that trains people to be sawyers, which I didn't know was a word for people who work on like felling trees. So that's pretty cool. I learned something new. But they work with people purposely to give them training opportunities to become professional sawyers, certified sawyers. And the deal that we're working out with them is we're going to let them come into Godsey Ridge, the trail system, and train their sawyers there, and simultaneously identify trees that could potentially be hazards and that need to be felled. And they're going to do that for us for free at no cost because we're offering them the opportunity to train people there. So that's what that MOU is for. If you want to hear more about that, just make sure you tune into the work session tomorrow. Item 9 is approve assignment of donation agreement for the field land. So this was the Hill Point HOA that's in South Red Bank, close to the White Oak Connector Trail, where the field has been located, the cemetery that we are working diligently with other entities on to preserve, clean up, honor, and designate a space for the people that were buried there. But part of the land was owned by the Hill Point HOA. So TPL, the Trust for Public Land, one of our partners, community partners, worked with the HOA, figured out, they paid for the survey, they paid for the appraisal, they paid for the phase 1 environmental study on our behalf, so that they could figure out how they needed to subdivide this parcel out for us. And so we are going to just be officially accepting that donation, but also approving payment to Trust for Public Land for the due diligence processes that they paid for on our behalf, which are those three things I just said. The appraisal, the survey, and the environmental test. So that was $15,290. I don't think that was budgeted because we didn't know the timeline on that. So that'll have to be a budget amendment. But we need that land to make sure that the field can be properly attended to. So that's that. We have a beer board meeting at Clever Ale House, just applying to vend beer at our Food Truck Friday event. So we'll talk about that. They've been doing that for us the past couple of years. Woo! I hope you guys can hear me okay. It's getting kind of loud. And then the last item is that ordinance I was talking about to establish a temporary 12-month moratorium on permitting. I'm just going to read it all because it contains all of these things. A moratorium on permitting all new vape stores, cannabis dispensaries, and associated sales of vape paraphernalia, including e-cigarettes, vaping devices, e-liquids, and other similarly related vape accessories. So basically, this came up because my understanding is we're in the process of on private property, the private property owners are bringing in 2 more vape shops. So vape, cannabis, blah, blah, blah shops. So we'll have 6 in 6.5 square miles. And that is not something we know for sure is what our community wants or desires. And because we are in the middle, literally, of completing our Unified Development Code, which will help guide us, it will be compatible with our comprehensive plan. It will help guide us as far as like land use, regulations, ordinances, codes, all of those things. And we are going to get public input on those, on the Unified Development Code. And basically, because we haven't yet, and there's 2 new vape shops coming in, they are actually vape shops, not cannabis dispensaries as far as I know, just vape shops. We were concerned about like available inventory being taken up by businesses that our community doesn't desire or doesn't desire in certain places. And because of the Unified Development Code being in progress already and has been for several months, we want to pause permitting on those types of stores until we can do public feedback on our UDC and complete that UDC to determine if people want those kinds of things, where we might zone for those kinds of stores in the future, etc. So that's basically where that came from. Anecdotally, I know people complain about them all the time, and we hear that. So, certainly that's some, unofficial public feedback we've gotten already. But also, just speaking for myself as a social worker, I'm familiar with a peer-reviewed study that was conducted. Put in the nicotine oils and the THC oils or whatever, CBD oils, that are not, that are actually causing long-term permanent damage to your lungs. So it's not just that it's, it's like not smoking a cigarette and then like you smoke 1 cigarette a day for 10 years and you stop, your lungs will heal from that. The chemicals that are in these oils are producing, they actually refer to it as popcorn lung, but it's producing permanent damage to your lungs. So just from a health perspective, from a healthcare perspective, super bad. And I'll talk about this tomorrow, but when I have 12-year-olds coming into my hospital telling me that they are vaping these things, oh, it makes me cry inside, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what's happening inside their bodies, the permanent damage that they're causing. So there's that element to it, but certainly, that's a state regulation that would have to come into play, but we certainly can regulate around zoning and land use. and appropriate spaces for those kinds of stores to go. So we do have to vote on that 2 times because it's an ordinance. So if you wanted to give comments on that or have concerns or questions, if you can't make it tomorrow, we'll have our official public hearing at our second reading and vote, which should be on September 1st at our first meeting in September. Or, you can reach out to me anytime. But otherwise, we will take comments on that tomorrow. And then again on the next Tuesday that we have our second vote on that. So, and it's just temporary. It's just a 12-month moratorium, just till we can figure things out with the UDC. And that's it. Thank you guys for joining me. If you don't have any questions or comments, I did see some thunder and lightning, so I probably need to go inside. But otherwise, I will see y'all tomorrow at 5 at our work session, 6 at our regular meeting. And yeah, I hope you have a good, safe night. Please be safe. Oh, the old middle school property. Okay, so on that, we did budget $200,000 to do like initial activation this year, which initially entails building an ADA accessible bathroom and thank you, Hayden, and an ADA accessible parking lot. We talked about also using those funds to help connect utilities from the street into the property and like sewer infrastructure. And then what else? Talked about doing like a temporary walkway or path, like a walking path, and potentially a temporary stage area. Because we would like to the plan is to move our main events, like our Jubilee and our Christmas Festival and Parade, to that property once we can get it developed. It is a lengthy process because we still have not heard back from the National Park Service on whether or not they're going to accept our new agreement with them. We did put in the application with all of the details. They have to approve that before we can move forward with the conversion that we still owe the National Park Service, which is actually going to be made up with, we're using the North Red Bank Hickson property to fulfill that agreement. That's what we've proposed. Hopefully they'll accept that because it will be quicker to develop than the old middle school property would be because it's so large. The parcel in North Red Bank is only about it's just under 5 acres. A tenth of that is wetland, and a significant portion of it is wooded. But we already have, site plan. We've sent it in with the National Park Service application. And so once they approve that, we can start like heavy development on that property. And then because we'll be back in compliance with the National Park Service, that will help us be more competitive for those federal parks and recreation grants that we're going to have to use to help fund development at the middle school property. So I know it feels like it's taking forever. It is. It took us until this year. I mean, I've been in office since December of 2020, so 5.5 years. It took us until now to even have the application ready to submit to them for their review because we're out of compliance with them. We didn't have staff who could dedicate time to that. We didn't have the money to do the small area plan until, a couple years ago. So it's just been I know it feels like it's dragged out. I personally was like, why is this not happening right away? It's a very lengthy and complex process, especially when you're talking about working with the federal government. So, but because we are resource constrained, we are very heavily dependent on property taxes. We have to utilize those grant opportunities to help us develop spaces like that. And we can't do that at the federal level until we get back in compliance with the National Park Service. But we did allocate that $200,000 to do initial activation. We want to, if we can't get the Christmas festival and parade there by December, I feel certain we would be able to get those basic amenities installed that are federally required, the ADA bathroom and ADA parking lot. Once we have those things, I feel certain we would be able to at least have the Jubilee there next year. But, you know, we're going to do everything we can to try to make it possible to get on that space, get it activated, and start, you know, having people using it. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I know it's like kind of all over the place, but there's a lot of different moving pieces with that. But yeah, hit me up if you have any more questions. Would be happy to sit down and have a coffee with you anytime, or tea or whatever. But yeah, otherwise I'm gonna go, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And okay, thank you, Brittany. All right, you guys have a good night. Be safe tonight.